Hello and welcome to Conversation Corner. My name is Kunal. We hear a lot of sayings as we grow up as children, and quite often, at the surface, that saying seems to make sense, so we assume that to be true. However, if we dig deeper, sometimes we find out that saying is completely incorrect or sometimes only partially correct. One of these partially correct statements is something we've been hearing since we were kids. That statement is knowledge is power. And the flip side to the statement knowledge is power is he's too smart for his own good. Let's break this down. We assume that the more information we have on hand, the better we can deal with life and how it unfolds. And sometimes that's very true. You need information to pass certain exams. It helps to know the route from your home to your office so you don't need to refer to maps. And in a lot of instances, having information beforehand is definitely useful. The downside to having information is believing that you know absolutely everything and becoming close minded. Let's give an example. This is a glass of water. If it were full to the brim, any more water poured would just lead to the water pouring out. It would overflow. So, when your mind is full of information, sometimes there isn't place for new information to enter. Now, it's quite possible you learned something in the past, but that is no longer relevant to the current circumstances. Let me give you an example. Let's say you follow one particular route every day to office, and suddenly one day there is construction work going on one place and you need to take another route to go to the office. Now if you've just been accustomed to taking one particular route, finding that other route becomes very difficult and tedious initially. So when you have acquired a lot of knowledge and information, and when this has contributed to your success in a certain endeavor, you've made that a crutch. What does that mean? You believe that because it worked for you in the past, it will continue to work for you in the present and the future. This might happen, but this may not happen in some cases, and in some cases, you may need to be open to new information. The problem is once we acquire knowledge, we believe that this unlocks the key to certainty. We believe that as knowledge enters our life, the path ahead shines brighter and things become easier to understand. Sometimes that can be a mistake. Sometimes things aren't as clear as they appear to be, and sometimes we need to be open to new information in order to stay ahead with the times, right? So, those of you who are familiar with social media and who've grown up in the 90s or the 80s will know that before Facebook became popular, there was another social media website by the name of MySpace. Now, that lost its relevancy and Facebook took its place. There was a chain called Blockbuster that used to rent out DVDs that lost its relevance to Netflix. A lot of times people can become too smart for themselves because they believe that the prior success they had in life on account of having knowledge will contribute to future success and present success. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you have to take the risk of starting from scratch. Now, the reason most people don't want to risk starting from scratch is they've built an idea of themselves as someone who has arrived and is competent in a certain area. And to be frank, no one likes to feel incompetent, no one likes to try and fail, but very often that is the only thing you can do when you're trying something new for which there's absolutely no blueprint. There's a lot of experimentation involved, and that is one reason why sometimes you can be too smart for your own good. What helps in this case? Try new things, get feedback, and see whether this works for you better than your current belief. So if you believe, let's say, a certain way of working out is superior, but you've stalled for a long point in time, for a long point of time, what you can do is you can start a new training regimen and see whether that brings you better results. If it doesn't, you can go back to the old routine or you can try another routine altogether. What I'm trying to say is, just because something has worked for you before doesn't mean it can become something reliable that you can always count on. You need to be open to feedback from the real world, and if the feedback you're getting from the real world on a consistent basis is what your method is doesn't get you the results that you need, you might need to switch and take a new approach to things. You might need to start from scratch as a beginner again and go with trial and error. Develop this habit and you'll see that you'll become a lot more flexible in life, and sooner or later you'll realize that even though you write a plan down, you can't write it in stone. It needs to adapt to the changes that take place in real life so that you can be adaptable to the changes that take place in real life and you can thrive. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, leave me a comment. I'd be happy to read it.